Hey everybody, Real with Wes, day 4, talking about living in a higher way. Now, I encourage you each time, go back and listen to day 1, 2, 3, now 4, and catch tomorrow because they're building up. And so that way I don't have to be on here 20 minutes every time, even though I'd love to preach. You guys, it's just meant to be 5. These have been going a little long this week because I'm really passionate about what I'm talking about. And there's so much contained into this. I'm hoping to preach more on this later is what I'm wanting to do and build up some sermons from this because I think really there's so much, not that I think I know, there's so much the essence and heartbeat of God in this and how to love people and treat people with dignity, empathy, honor, respect, and just go to a higher level of the grace of God in our relationships. And that's what this is, a higher way. But it also means denying our self-centeredness. Everything I'm talking about this week, you have to realize Jesus has challenged us to stop being so self-centered. When someone says something to you that you don't like, and it may be mean, we're not even getting to the stuff that you debate whether it's how you're interpreting all of it, all these different things. When someone lashes out at you, for example, and hurts you and injures you, can you not be so self-centered to say in that moment, this person's hurting? I can set myself aside long enough and trust God that He'll heal me. Yes, I hurt. Yes, I'm not here to tolerate abuse. Yes, I'm not here to be just disrespected continuously, but to respond differently and trust God to restore me. We talked about that yesterday. And not treat them, just to respond evil with evil, bad with bad, eye for an eye, tooth for tooth. God is trying to get us to live above this self-centeredness. Why? We talked about yesterday, you'll live in peace is what you'll do. But today I want to talk about it's a way to enjoy life. If you're not living in peace, because here's what happens. If you're not living in peace, it's getting in your head and it's swirling around, it's swirling around, it's swirling around. It becomes strife, it becomes anger, it becomes all these messed up things that become toxic in your head, and it robs you of your day is what happens. And people talk about, I want to, I don't want people to take my peace. Well, here's the ugly side of talking about this. When we say, well, I don't need people to do this. I don't need it. You allow it to happen. You have to allow it to happen. And a lot of times when we let things happen to us, not saying things don't hurt, but please understand, I'm being very sensitive to the fact these things hurt. It's not taking abuse, but it's talking about when we hold on to them, when we hold them over people's head, when we want to respond with attitude, things like we're being selfish. And they're like, well, the other person's being selfish. So 2 wrongs make a right. The old statement your mom would tell me, don't make you. So 2 wrongs make a right. If they go jump off a bridge, you're going to go jump off with them. It's literally kind of things like that. You have to reason with yourself and realize to get your carnality to step out of the darkness into the light, which is stepping out of your self-centeredness. So let's get into this 1 Peter 3:8. I've been giving you scriptures today to go meditate on. These really overlap with each other. They connect really well. In verse 8, he said in 1 Peter 3, finally, all of you should be of one mind. Sympathize with each other. It's so important. Love each other as brothers and sisters. Be tender-hearted and keep a humble attitude. Do you realize all this it takes being tender-hearted, empathetic, a humble attitude. When we respond with eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, it makes us cold. It brings us to this coldness. Self-centeredness will make us hard-hearted, cold, angry, bitter. All those things set in. It's really to keep you out of all that more than anything. Do you realize how exhausting it is to participate in that back and forth revenge thing? How draining it is, and yet you have no real fruit from it? That's the thing God's trying to get you to realize. There's no fruit that comes out of that, at least no good fruit that comes out of it. But choosing this higher way is where the fruit comes in. It doesn't feel good at first. Man, you're making an investment for your future is what you're doing. That future may be an hour later. It may be 30 minutes later. It may be 30 days later, by the way. It may be 2 years later. But you're making a deposit and an investment for your future is what you're doing in that moment. So verse 9 says, don't repay evil for evil. You keep hearing that again, by the way. This is Peter saying it now. Don't retaliate with insults. Oh man, that ruins so much of my day already. Don't respond with insults. And God's always challenging me on that. You're like, what, Wes? I'm being transparent. It doesn't mean cussing somebody out when you respond with insults. It don't mean actually name calling every time when you insult. You can do it in a very variety of ways. We see there's passive aggressives, there's talking down to people, there's the backhanded compliments and all those things that come out of it. There's sarcasm and everything else. Those are all insulting, is what it is. There's body language. I mean, it's like I tell some people, I look at people, I'm like, fix your face. Fix your face. Because you're insulting somebody with your body language. There's so many different ways to communicate in an insulting way. So let's not get so dumb deep that we allow ourselves to kind of slide away from it. But don't repay evil for evil. Don't retaliate with insults. When people insult you, oh man, that's hard. What happens when people insult you? Do you insult them right back? Then that's an area you got to work on. Don't beat yourself up on. Don't beat them up. Forgive them. Forgive yourself. Say, God, show me how to do better and be better. Instead, pay them back with a blessing. Really? Pay them back with a what? Yeah. Pay them back with a compliment. Doesn't always have to be money. Maybe like, man, they were such a rude server. Give them an extra 10%. What? Pay them back with good. They were so mean to me. Well, I'm paying them. They were, whoa. You get caught up in the things of the world. Look for the things of God, the higher way. Why? Because these things are going to pass away. These jobs, these moments, these little interactions are going to pass away. And then there's eternity. And these are going to rob us from eternity. You want to give everybody a chance to see light. That's what you want to do. And you cannot be so self-centered. You give up your ability to see light. And I talked about this yesterday. Give someone else to see the light of God. And see the light of God through you by you showing it instead of that dark fallen way of your carnality and self-centeredness. And we talked about that yesterday. Laying aside yourself. That's what it's all about. And forgetting the fact you need that same empathy too, that same tenderheartedness. You want that too. Okay, let me keep moving here. So instead, pay them back with a blessing. That is what God has called you to do, and He will bless you for it. Wow, you're robbing yourself of that blessing. Well, what is that blessing? To enjoy life, to walk in peace, to have healthy relationships. It's not always, oh, well, if I treat people good, God will bless me with that brand new car. You self-centered fool. You can't play God. Forgive me for being straight. I'm playing a little bit there, but still, that's self-centeredness is what that is at the end of the day. No, it's about, man, you living in peace. You enjoying life. You walking in harmony with people. You staying out of the muck of that darkness, that muck of confusion, that muck of strife, that muck of anger, letting go of the hurt and everything else that comes with it. Man, you're bypassing all that and living higher is what it is. Living above those things, not above people, above those ways of doing things though. And man, it's hard to stay in the hurt. It's hard to stay in the unforgiveness. It's hard to stay in the strife when you choose to live that way anyways and trust God to restore you. Trust God to heal you. Trust God to mend you. Not to be a doormat, not to be beat up, not to be hurt, injured, any of that stuff. I'm not talking about that. I think it's really clear what it is, but you know that self-centeredness I'm talking about. So showing empathy towards others, being tenderhearted and in humility. It takes humility to do this. And see, that frustration and that friction comes up when you want to get prideful. You want to get arrogant and you want to make it all about me. What you did to me, let me hurt you, when it's like just 2 hours ago, you did something where somebody had to show you grace and show you mercy and show you love. Or think of this time, how many times someone didn't show you that and scorched you as hard as you can. You imagine doing that to someone else? You've been on the receiving end of the ugly side of that. Why would you want to put somebody else through that? That's where you got to think a little more. It's walking in the light as He is in the light. And I don't say that loosely. I want you to catch that. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. We'll come back tomorrow. I'm not going to a bunch of different points. I'm just staying on this one thing because this is hard truth to accept. It's hard for me to accept, but it's challenging us. And if we'll accept it, we will live on such a much more higher level of enjoying life, being in peace, having good relationships, walking in harmony, and being an effective witness for Jesus, man, by showing mercy and receiving mercy. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. Catch you tomorrow.